In today's video, I am gonna now share with you guys some of the most powerful lessons and frameworks that Warren Buffett shared in this documentary. And like I mentioned, these are things that literally nobody has seen yet because the documentary just came out yesterday. So let's get right into it. The first scene in the documentary is Warren Buffett at 92 years old getting ready for bed. He removes his contact lenses and puts them in a little container. And then he goes through this whole routine where he rinses his mouth with water, swishes it around and spits it back into the sink. Then he goes to sleep. The documentary follows him while he sleeps all the way till sunrise. This was such an interesting scene because when we think about Warren Buffett, we think about someone who's super driven, extremely smart, successful investor. But he's also 92 years old, and it's very normal to have this bias of thinking that very successful people, they don't sleep much. They're always working. That's how they got to where they are today. But that's simply not true. Even Warren Buffett needs his sleep. He goes through a bedtime routine. He has habits. He's still human at the end of the day. So I thought that was a really interesting scene. After he wakes up, he immediately goes to work. And he starts by checking what the stock indexes did overnight. This is important because Buffett says that investing should be simple. And if you want to do well, you have to keep it simple. Investing is not about trying to beat the market. It's about making sure that you stay invested in the market. Buffett says, if you aren't willing to own a stock for 10 years, don't even think about owning it for 10 minutes. Now, Buffett is not saying that you have to hold on to every single stock for 10 years. What he is saying is that you shouldn't be jumping in and out of stocks trying to time the market. Time in the market beats timing the market. So as soon as he wakes up, he looks at the stock indexes and sees what happened overnight, and then he moves on to his next task. One of the biggest questions that people had coming into this documentary was how much money does Warren Buffett actually make? Like how much money does he earn in a year? The answer to this question was actually quite surprising. So in 2021, Warren Buffett made $100 million. This was actually less than half of what he made in 2020, which was $210 million. What is even more surprising is that both of these amounts are less than what he earned in 1987, which was $140 million. And that was over 35 years ago, so this is why. When we look at the top earners of all time, people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Ray Dalio, they made most of their money within the last 10 years. But Warren Buffett made most of his money decades ago, and he continues to live a very modest lifestyle. His annual salary is $100,000. He drives a car that he bought in 2014. He doesn't have a personal chef. He eats the same food as everyone else at Berkshire Hathaway. He dresses very modestly, and he lives in the same house that he bought in 1958 for $31,500. And yes, it's still 2022. He hasn't moved out of that house yet. Okay, now we've established that Warren Buffett doesn't make that much money anymore, and he is very careful with what he spends. So this raises another question. How did he become a multi-billionaire? Well, the answer is simple. He reinvests all of his earnings back into his company. And since his company makes a lot of money, he can keep reinvesting that money back into new projects and continue growing the business. He said, if you buy into a business for good money and the business does well, you will make good money. So essentially what he is saying is that as long as you buy a good business at a reasonable price and then you stay invested for the long term, eventually you will make money. So this is the secret to Warren Buffett's success. Now I have to admit I was a bit disappointed with this documentary because it didn't go too deep into how Warren Buffett became so successful. It barely even touched on his investment strategy. But there were two books that were referenced multiple times in this documentary, and I wanted to share those with you guys. The first book is called Super Investors of Graham and Doddsville. This book basically highlights the different investors who were inspired by Benjamin Graham and David Dodd. Both of these people wrote a book called Security Analysis, which is considered to be the Bible of investing. Warren Buffett was also a student of Benjamin Graham, and he credits a lot of his success to the teachings of Benjamin Graham. So this book, Super Investors of Graham and Doddsville, was a great way for Warren Buffett to connect with other investors who shared the same beliefs. Another book that was referenced multiple times in the documentary is Poor to Daddy, and this is a book that Warren Buffett read in his 20s, and he read it 3 times. And this book completely changed his life. This book teaches the fundamentals of capitalism, things like supply and demand, pricing, competition, etc. And essentially this book laid the foundation for Warren Buffett to build his empire on. So if you guys want to learn more about Warren Buffett's investment strategy, then I recommend you guys check out these books. Another interesting thing that I learned from this documentary is that Warren Buffett is extremely competitive. He loves competing and he loves winning. The entire town of Omaha knows that Warren Buffett loves to compete because every single year he competes in this golf tournament and he brings his best friends from college. And every single year he tells them, "I'm gonna beat you all this year." But every single year he ends up losing. In fact, he hasn't won in 26 years. But he still continues to compete every single year because he's super competitive. He wants to win. Buffett says, "You have to be aggressive to make money, but you have to be even more aggressive to keep it." I love this quote because sometimes when we make our first few $1,000s, we feel like we're on top of the world. We feel like we're rich. But if you want to get to the next level and become truly wealthy, you have to take bigger risks and make more aggressive moves. You have to keep pushing yourself further and further, and each level will just get harder and harder as you climb higher and higher. Throughout the documentary, you see different people talk about how humble Warren Buffett is and how grateful he is for everything that he has. There was this one scene where he visits his hometown and he buys everyone in the town a barbecue and he personally serves everyone food. He says, "I have a real strong sense of gratitude for what I've been able to do. I'm just so thankful that I can do this for my friends." Now, I am not saying you need to throw big parties and give everyone free food in order to show gratitude. The lesson here is that no matter how successful you get, never forget where you came from. Do and never forget the people that helped you get where you are today, and always remember to give back and show gratitude. Another interesting thing that I learned about Warren Buffett is that he's very mindful of his health. When he was younger, he smoked a lot of cigarettes and he drank a lot of alcohol. And he admits that these bad habits almost cost him his life. Since then, he cut out smoking and drinking and he started eating healthier. He works out 5 days a week. He believes that your health is your most important asset and you should always take care of it. Buffett says, "Your health is your real wealth, and whether you have enough of it or not, that's the only thing that matters." So whenever you're feeling down or you don't have the motivation to work out or eat healthy, remember that your health is your most important asset and you need to take care of it. Now, before I wrap up this video, I want to leave you guys with one last quote from Warren Buffett. He says, "If you buy things you do not need, you will soon sell things you need." We live in a consumer-driven society and we are constantly being bombarded with advertisements telling us to buy the latest iPhone, buy the newest shoes, buy the coolest TV, and it's easy to get caught up in the rat race. But if you want to be truly successful, you need to resist the temptation of buying things that you don't need. Focus on buying things that will bring you value and avoid buying things that will depreciate in value. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to drop a like down below. It helps me out a lot. I hope you guys have an amazing day. I'll see you guys in the next video.